We've had the last 3 years where we have a Prime Minister who voted Remain, who, during the general election in 2017, couldn't bring herself to say that she'd vote Leave in a future referendum. We've had that sort of stuttering leadership for the last 3 years.
Theresa May was picked to be leader of the Conservative Party for the reason of being boring.
People like a politician who doesn't try and mince their words, who doesn't pretend he's anything he's not.
If the party go for a Brexiteer, and that would be a novelty, you know, 3 years after the country voted Leave, finally having a Prime Minister who actually voted the way that the majority of the country did. Well, the Brexit Party is offering people hope, a vision of looking towards a more democratic future. Having taken no deal off the table, she's left with very little to bargain with.
What happened last time? We joined a common market, and through a series of, I think, 5 treaties, we entered into deeper and closer integration.
Theresa May's Conservative Party has ended austerity and abandoned many of the decisions that were taken under Cameron. It's objectively to the left of the previous Cameron government.
Well, actually, Parliament voted to put no deal on the table when they voted to trigger Article 50. And if MPs didn't know what they were voting for a couple of years ago, that's on them, not on any future Prime Minister. She should have stood up, walked out of that conference and said, right, we're preparing for no deal, and if you don't want no deal EU, you come talk to me, not vice versa.
As soon as you enter into that backstop, is you give away all of your cards to the EU.
Both Jacob Rees-Mogg, an ardent Brexiteer, and an ardent Remainer like Nicky Morgan sitting at the table thrashing out a compromise that the whole party united behind. If the Conservative Party wants to undo the untold damage done to their brand amongst Brexiteers over the last year, they need to change leadership.
And it also confirms the worst fears of Brexiteers sitting in Parliament. They know that they are a small minority within a Parliament that overwhelmingly voted Remain in the referendum. It's so important that we leave this tricky situation that the country is facing right now with incredibly divisive politics. We've heard it from protesters surrounding us today. I don't want that to go on for years and years to come. It's very understandable at this stage in the race to be talking to MPs. They're the ones who matter until we get down to those final 2 candidates, and then you go out and talk to the country.
That doesn't change the fact that there is a limited amount of money to spend. And to spend £11.5 billion on abolishing tuition fees would, as you said, only benefit the richest in society.
And if we start saying some people's votes matter more than others, we get into very dangerous territory.
And that doesn't mean more endless referendums until people get the right answer. That means coming together as one nation and building that brighter future that we can all see.
There was a collective sense of sadness, really, when Theresa May stood inside Downing Street on Wednesday evening and didn't announce anything different, didn't announce any sort of change, and that's what everyone on all sides of this debate are pining for right now. Parliament voted to leave the EU. The people voted for the EU. 80% of the people voted for parties that said we're going to leave the EU, and now you want to throw all of that away. It's extraordinary, the contempt that your campaign has for the wishes of people of this country.
The Brexit Secretary hasn't been negotiating Brexit. It's been in the hands of people who voted Remain. And so, of course, they'll view it as a damage limitation exercise, not as an opportunity.
If we want to create jobs and opportunities and growth, we have this huge opportunity to be world-leading in the kind of regulation that we set domestically.
We have these opportunities. If we leave the customs union, if we leave the single market, we can put Brexit to bed. We can get past this horrible situation we've been stuck in, this merry-go-round that we've been sitting on, these same discussions that we've been having week after week, month after month, year after year.
The whole British public has really put 2 fingers up at both major parties, and you can really see why. With the absolute prevarication that we have been stuck in, this stasis that we find ourselves in, it is an absolute disgrace that 3 years ago people voted to leave the European Union, and that decision has not been enacted yet.
And you say that the people got it wrong and that we have to go again. Really, this is undermining trust in democratic institutions.
For the first time, a party called For Britain, which is a breakaway that thinks even Gerard Batten's UKIP is not far right enough, has now gained a seat in the North East of Labour.
You might say that 12-year-olds aren't allowed to buy alcohol, buy cigarettes, drive,
get married,
fight for their country, marry without permission, all of these things, but that's true of 16-year-olds as well.